All right, so thank you, Juan, for coming on to Decentralized Space with Soy and Ree, with me and Ree, obviously.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep. And so, how did you find Bitcoin?
It was a while ago. There's a libertarian philosopher talking about how it could be the next big thing, and it was all about like the Austrian economics of it were perfect, and he was just talking it up. So I started listening to it and like just paying attention. I didn't know anything about tech back then, and just started kind of getting into it. And then around this was like maybe 2013, and I was broke ass 20-year-old. I was like basically just completely broke. So I'm not rich or anything, but once the bull market to $1,000 happened, I was living in Toronto. I just decided to go all in on Bitcoin, and I started going to meetups and all this stuff, and I became a Bitcoin crypto journalist, and I started writing for Bitcoin magazine. Then I worked for Cointelegraph for like a year, and then I just kind of did journalism for 2-3 years. Eventually, I launched a YouTube channel, interviewed a bunch of people. You can find all of that on juangal.com, and then and then I've just been kind of in the community ever since, just trading. I went down the trading rabbit hole and worked with Ugly Old Goat, who's kind of a legend among Bitcoin traders, and I'm just a technologist in a sense, right? Like right now AI is the shit, so like I'm really into AI right now, just figuring out what's going on there, and I just love Bitcoin pretty much, and yeah.
Did you always like Bitcoin, or were there other coins that you were into?
I mean, I think, I definitely shitcoined, I was there at the beginning of Ethereum. I saw Ethereum be born in Toronto, met Vitalik and all that stuff. So I kind of, throw a little bit of money at that. And then I kind of did my little shitcoin sabbatical, so I played with a bunch of different coins. I've always been a trader, since I basically got into Bitcoin, I started trading. So even today, I trade shitcoins sometimes if I see like a good play, but I think there's like a very clear like ethical line, whereas you don't pump shitcoins, you only dump shitcoins, and so that's I think how I maintain integrity while also playing the markets. Like you'll very rarely, like I don't really generally talk about coins publicly. Or anything like that, and I'm very, very specific. I'm looking for like fundamental value and actual innovation. I think a lot of the pump and dump scams are indistinguishable from gambling and throwing money at blackjack, and I'm not really. That doesn't seem to me like a good risk reward sort of ratio for investing. So. I guess I'm more of a long-term investor, but I have an open mind. I'm not religious about Bitcoin. I do think Bitcoin is the best of the cryptocurrency, so to speak. It's the only thing that remotely comes close to being an actual currency within crypto, aside from like stable coins. I think it's more of a crypto commodity than anything else. And I think Ethereum's total dog shit. I wrote like a 4,000-word article on why Ethereum's fucked, and I don't really, I'm very specific, but I do have certain bets, right? Like I think Monero has a very clear niche, and I think it's pretty strong, even though it's definitely nowhere near as good as the Monero people make it out to be. And that's kind of where I'm at with that.
What sort of articles would you write for Bitcoin magazine?
Well, I can send you the link. I wrote a few articles for them, maybe 4 or 5 of them. One of them was about a kind of like an early privacy coin. And then I wrote another one about fungibility in Bitcoin, and doing like interviewing a modern economist historian that was trying to figure out. Well, I was trying to figure out if there's any historical precedent for breaks in fungibility in a currency. Like what happens when the fungibility of a currency actually fails? And there's actually not very much history on this, and not very good examples. So fungibility is actually not that. Seems like it's not that big of a concern, despite it being like a huge concern among Bitcoiners and privacy advocates and such. But so that I think is the best thing that I wrote for them. But let me send you a link.
Nice. And what does that mean, fungibility?
Well, fungibility is one of the core qualities of money, as identified by Aristotle. And the fungibility basically means that each unit of account or unit of money is interchangeable for another unit of money. So, monetarily speaking and legally speaking in particular, if you get a one gold coin that was stolen, it's legally of equal value as any other gold coin, is even if it was stolen, even if somebody stamped their name on it, even if it has special art, like maybe artistically speaking it can have added value like a sort of rare collectible sort of gold coin, but legally speaking it's equivalent to 1 ounce of gold or whatever. And that's really important for money because if you if you if you buy something, like if somebody pays you with a stolen gold coin, and then you go and buy something with it, the company that received your gold coin is not liable for that theft, and thus should not be obligated to return that gold coin. And it's just like, sorry, too bad. All gold coins are equitable and fungible, and so you don't have a right to claim it, even though it was stolen, right? And there's an actual court case, I think in England, that happened here like 200 years ago, that established fungibility as a legal defense, against that kind of case. And so fungibility basically means that all units are indistinguishable from other units in a monetary system. And the big concern with Bitcoin privacy is that if you have a government whitelist, akin to what Coinalytics or like the analytics companies are doing, chain analysis, you could have the fungibility of the theoretical attack is you could have the fungibility of Bitcoin break such that your coins are traded at a discount because they're not whitelisted, or if you get coins that are 2-3 hops off the dark web, then those are traded at a discount because the powers that be don't approve them in their whitelist. And so that attack has been theoretical for a decade, but practically speaking, it's only happened in like edge cases, and those edge cases haven't really held up as far as I know too much. But it's still kind of like a concern within Bitcoin because of this, because of its public nature, because its privacy is actually fairly difficult to achieve, and that means that not that many people actually do the privacy stuff that needs to be done on your coins. So, so that's kind of why I did that deep dive on the topic. I'll send you the link.
I think SHA-256 will ever be cracked, and because I've been hearing things about quantum computers possibly being able to hack into it. Do you believe that, or what are your thoughts?
I don't really believe in quantum computing at that level. I think first of all, I don't believe in quantum physics that much. I think quantum physics is kind of like a pseudoscience. You can't have everything in the world be based on like basic logic, right? Like basic logic is A and can't be A and B at the same time. Quantum physics says A can be A, B, and C and your mom at the same time. And that's just no basis for any kind of rational construct. And so I think quantum physics is kind of like a big tech scam. I think quantum mechanics is a bit of a different beast, and that actually has real science and applications built into it. Like I'll believe in quantum physics when you build me a quantum physics computer, and all the quantum computers are actually kind of like, they're just different chips with like more inputs, but they're not really quantum in any real sense. And as far as I understand, and also like I think we're pretty far from building software with a quantum computer that could do anything remotely close to cracking cryptography. So I'm not really worried about the quantum chips, quantum computing stuff. But even then, it's trivial to do quantum secure cryptography. So we could upgrade public keys in Bitcoin and a lot of the cryptography in Bitcoin to be like SHA-256 or SHA-512 or SHA, whatever the fuck, that makes it quantum safe. And so, Satoshi Nakamoto wrote about this. He said that in the case of a quantum computing attack that actually broke SHA-256, he said, I think we could all probably reach consensus about a state of the chain that was before the attack. and then hard fork it to upgrade the whole network to quantum-proof cryptography and continue onwards, and it would probably be fine. It would have to be a hard fork, and then we would probably lose a few blocks of transactions in that rollback. But yeah, I don't think it's that big of a concern, to be honest. But again, I'm not an engineer, so take that with a grain of salt. However, all the people that I know that are nerds, they're not really concerned with it.
Is there anything about outside forces or within Bitcoin itself that you think could potentially stop it from doing what it's setting out to do?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's tricky because on the one hand, like, who are we to really have that much influence over something as big as Bitcoin at this point? I think on the one hand, and no single individual can really attack it successfully, at this point, I think. But also, even what can we really do to defend it either, right? Like, I think Bitcoin kind of stands on its own. Granted, it is a consensus system. And, probably the biggest threat to Bitcoin is actually apathy. Like, if the Bitcoin community became so technically illiterate and stopped caring, let's say, about the fundamental values of Bitcoin, decentralization, immutability, verification, authentication, being able to run your own node, being able to download the whole history and verify its integrity. I think if apathy around that grew to the point where Bitcoin security became compromised, then yeah, you could probably have it fail. Also, you could probably have, I wonder, I don't know if this is realistic or likely, but you gotta understand, cryptography is probabilistic. It's not deterministic. That means that there's always a very tiny chance that somebody else gets the same private key that you do. The thing is that the chance is so small that it's irrelevant. It's basically like, there's better odds that you'll win the lottery 1,000,000 times type of thing. But it still means that there's a tiny chance, right? And by the same token, Bitcoin doesn't have perfect security. It just has great security, right? Like a 51% attack could, in theory, destroy Bitcoin if anybody could accumulate that much electricity and that much hashing power and then attack Bitcoin for a very long time until it becomes basically, useless and unreliable. That will be like a sustained 51% attack. But I think that realistically, it's too hard at this point to attack it that way. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's anything particular. I think the biggest concern really is like a tribalist sort of culture within Bitcoin that becomes illiterate and religious and becomes kind of like, ignorant of its own technology and alienates talent and alienates, I think we need to become good advocates and evangelists, right? And there's an ethic there. There's an ethic of being good communicators and like good stewards of the technology, or at least of its values. But I don't know that there's, I don't know that there's anything. It's hard because I'm in it, right? Like I'm swimming in the same water that you guys are, so it's kind of hard to look at it from the outside. But I don't know. I do worry that people don't care. I worry about that the world doesn't give a shit about hard money. I worry that that people will just want their fucking bug food and will be content living in the pods, and I don't know that there's anything that we can do about that, other than try to inspire people to live a better life. But that's almost bigger than Bitcoin.
Wow. So, Juan, how did you find this podcast? How did you find us on Twitter?
I asked Bitcoin. I asked Twitter who the funniest people on Bitcoin Twitter were, and you guys were named. And then Silo DM'd me, and here we are.
Wow, incredible. So, what are your beliefs, Juan? What are your theories on how everything came to be?
At what scale? Are you talking about like religion
Everything.
or God or
Yep, everything.
Satoshi Nakamoto? Is the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, but he came
What
from
the-
the future,
What
and
the-
and then he's trying to save us from the from the cyber aliens
What the-
Amazing.
that wanna probe us in the ass and steal our Bitcoin.
Wow. Where did you hear that one, or does that one just come from
I
within?
just made it up.
Wow. Come on, though. Juan? Are you a Christian, or how were you raised? Was it like growing
Okay,
up?
no, that's a good question. I was raised Catholic. I'm Latin American. I'm from Colombia. I was raised Catholic. I decided at 14 that I was an atheist. I think at 8, somebody said, "Well, the Bible says something." Like, the Bible's just a book, man. I was 8, didn't know anything. And then I was an atheist for about 10 years. And then Peterson happened. Jordan Peterson happened. And Peterson kind of tamed my atheism. I was also an anarchist, like a hard anarcho-capitalist for pretty much the same decade. So I was a hard anarcho-capitalist, hard atheist. And then Peterson and Trump happened, which were interesting, And I'm not like religious about Peterson or about Trump for that matter. But I think they both changed my perspectives on religion and on politics.
And how did they do that?
Well, Peterson in particular, because I love psychology. I wanted to be a talk therapist for a long time, and I'm a psychology enthusiast. I love psychology, and so I always found psychology really interesting. But the Bible made no fucking sense to me because everything was interpreted literally, right? Like, there's no kangaroos on the Bible. There's people that believe that Earth is 6,000 years old. There's people that believe that Earth is flat. All of this based on, the interpretations of the world of people that lived 2,000 years ago plus. And so that's just, so I can't sustain that in my belief system. I can't integrate that into my knowledge. And so I couldn't accept Christianity on those grounds because it seemed like the book was just ossified, like its knowledge was rigid and unflexible and incapable of adapting to new worlds. And I think the reality is Christianity is very progressive compared to other religions. Like, it's very adaptive to new times, and it grows with the world. But with Peterson led me to reinterpret the religious books as metaphors for dealing with the dilemmas of life. Life throws crazy shit at you, and we're not the first to go through them. And the Bible is a collective work of helping us figure out the best path to deal with the worst things that life can throw at you. And there is a greater order to the universe, and the Bible is, and religion in general is trying to deal with that. And the Christian religion in particular is sort of, it builds an ethic around self-sacrifice for the greater good, and I think that's, as an ethic, I think that's a good thing. And so I consider myself a secular Christian of sorts, though I'm not married to Christianity. Like, I think there's other esoteric there's other theologies that are interesting. Right now I'm going down like a Kabbalah rabbit hole, like learning about the Kabbalah, which is kind of like the previously occult Jewish mysticism. Now it's kind of made public. It's been like the Jewish people have decided that it's okay to share this, and so now the rabbis are talking about Kabbalah on the internet, and it's really interesting. And apparently there's like a lot of parallels between Plato's philosophy and Kabbalah, which is also a trip. I'm also interested in Buddhism. I've studied Buddhism a little bit, and so I don't know. I'm kind of an esoteric, theologically speaking, but I think at heart, Christianity has a place there for me, a very strong place for me. So that's kind of, I'm an esoteric, I guess.
Amazing. And you said something about Trump earlier. Do you support the Great White Hope?
I like Trump. I think he did the right things in general in 2016. I mean, he's the first United States president in like 50 years that didn't start a war. Maybe the only one. I think there's like another guy. He actually set the ground for ending Afghanistan, which Biden completely fucked up and left 80 billion worth of weapons in Afghanistan, which Taliban took over and then took over Afghanistan. But I'm a fan. I'm a fan of his ethos. I think the man is wounded by the alleged theft, let's just put it that way, of the 2020 election, and it has struggled to overcome the loss. And I think that's actually harming him. I think he needs to get back to what actually people really care about in their daily lives, which is basically economics and freedom and righteousness, you know.
Do you think the election was rigged?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Definitely.
Are you surprised?
Blind to nothing. Yeah.
Does it surprise you that such a weak man was able to get the presidency?
No. Sorry, what's the question?
And why aren't you surprised by that?
Wait. Am I surprised by what?
By America the election being stolen.
Well, that's what communists do. That's what Marxists do. That's what socialists do. Like, it doesn't matter who votes. It matters who counts the votes. This is a quote from Mao, I believe. So no, it doesn't surprise me. It surprises me that Americans failed to resist the attack. But I think a lot of people were kind of lulled into this sense of safety, and the media machine is, regardless of how irrelevant they're becoming, they're still very powerful. And the people that are behind that are very very cunning, even though they're not that impressive. Like I think people like to give the evil people of the world today much more credit than they deserve. There's been way worse people in the world in history, but yeah. So I don't know. I think it's definitely it like I expected them to win, but it didn't particularly surprise me when they stole it. It's like, okay, these people are fucking hardcore, and they're willing to do anything to get shit done. And that's the reason. That's what psychopaths do, right? Like that's the that's why they win. That's why they're strong, because they don't really care. So it's tough, but like I think we gotta become strong. But we also have to keep our humanity and keep our conscience, and our conscience, and that's a challenge. That's a challenge of I guess people that aren't completely lost to nihilism or psychopathy.
So Juan, what do you think needs to happen to see society go back in the right direction? Because obviously right now it's not going in the right direction.
I think we need to focus on what is best at the individual level, at the familial level, at the local level, and then at the political level, and then at the global level. You know what I mean? So like there's a full range of interests that humans have. And everybody's focused, like most people, especially when they're young, they focus on the political level and completely ignore the personal, familial, and local. And the proper path is to find the decisions and the journey that will align the good for everybody. But you got to start locally. You can't worry about politics if your house is in disorder. And this is, you're going to hear Peterson through these thoughts, but you literally can't do anything good if your house isn't in order. So you got to start with yourself, with your body, your health, your mental health, and your wealth, and your usefulness to the world. And then you got to follow with your family and then your local environment and build upwards. And so I think that's where people got to go. We got to go back to local and build upwards. And I think we got to build towards being self-sustaining, right? Having like food security, energy security, all that stuff, while also using the platforms that are available to us, to whatever degree we can, to amplify the vision. We just need to build a more resilient world. Like governments are incapable of defending us at this point. The military-industrial complex doesn't give a shit about us. They're just care about selling guns, and They're willing to kill for it. Politicians are sold and bought on the daily. I think we just gotta rebuild society with the technology we have, to some degree in parallel, and probably with open source. And the answers are there and the technologies are there. If you look, you'll find I have so many friends that are very well versed in all the ways that we could have self-sustaining everything, but people get kind of locked into these little tribal ideologies and they close their eyes, and so I think we need to be pragmatic, but I think we need to be start from the bottom up.
Do you think that Bitcoin plays into this, and how can people use Bitcoin in order to turn things back to and do things the right way?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin is censorship resistant wealth. You could say money. And that is really the only thing that Bitcoin does well. Everything else it sucks at. It's good at letting you protect part of your wealth in a way that is the most difficult to steal and capture. You can set up, you can literally download Casa, which has a creepy ass fucking logo. Guys, get your shit together. They just rebranded to a logo that looks way too much like a pedo fucking logo, but their technology is still very good. And so you can have a 2 of 3 multisig or a 3 of 5 multisig with very easy to use technology that is independent from Casa, the company, and have a setup that's you can do it in an hour and have unprecedented security over your wealth. Historically you're a king. And that is incredible. Of course, now you're exposed to the volatility of Bitcoin, which is a fucking roller coaster. People don't like to talk about it, but it's crazy, right? The volatility of Bitcoin, even today, is still wild. And so I think as a money, it still has a ways to go, but nevertheless, it is fuck you money in the sense that it's very difficult to take it from you. And it's very clear you can send it across the world for basically free. You can cross Ukrainian war-torn boundaries with a passphrase in your head or whatever, right? And you can get out. You can escape the grips of tyranny with Bitcoin in a way that you can't with anything else. So yeah, it's definitely a huge part of it. But I think also Bitcoiners need to become a little bit more street savvy about how to navigate the volatility of Bitcoin. I think people need to take profits when everybody's crazy and thinks we're going to go to 1 million, and they need to build assets that produce value so that they can buy the fucking dip and DCA into it at the bottom, right? You can't be panic selling Bitcoin to pay rent at 80% discount. You should never have to do that as a Bitcoiner. So we haven't figured that out as a community, I think, and people are rightfully resistant to trading, and traders don't give a shit about the fundamentals that much. And so I don't think we've found a balanced sort of conversation or dialogue around this, but that's kind of what I've tried to do. With the past 2 bull markets, I built a house and now I don't have to pay rent. It's fucking great.
Amazing. How did you get started doing that?
Just trading shitcoins on the internet. Be honest. That's how I started learning, and then I started just, studying charts and looking at charts. That was years ago, but I would say the best resource on this is actually Tom Vace's educational stuff is fucking solid. Go to tomvace.com and read it, consume all the premium content he has there on how to learn how to trade. And then on a risk management perspective, something people don't talk about. Risk management is the recognition that you can only lose the chips that you put on the table, and so you can risk up 1% of your hodl and leverage that 20x or 10x or 5x, and if you're right, you can get 5% back, right? If you're wrong, you just lose 1%. You have 99 more shots at the table, and the trick of risk management is making sure you don't have a game over scenario where you risk too much money and lose it, right? So you're better off risking 1% and leveraging 10x or 20x than you are risking 20% and leveraging 2x, right? And so I think, yeah, so risk management, to study that, I would go to uglyoldgoat.com. He's my mentor. He's a fucking fantastic dude, a Bitcoin maxi, an OG, and he's got a great sort of long list of articles on this and premium content and stuff. Yeah, so those are the two people I would say just go read all their shit if you're interested in this line of thinking.
Wow. So Juan, have you ever seen something with your own eyes that you can't explain?
Yes, I'm a very creative person, so I find ways to explain all kinds of things. But a long time ago, a friend of mine took his own life, and I had lent him a video game before he did that, and the game was Driver 2, great PlayStation 1 game, fucking excellent game, and he never gave it back to me. And I lived in an apartment building on like the 3rd floor with security. And 2-3 days after he passed, I was having like dreams of him like visiting me in my house, and like being like sitting in my rocking chair in my room and being like, I'm good, everything's good, don't worry about it, and all this stuff, right? And then one of those nights I woke up and I in the morning and I looked at my table next to me, my nightstand, and the video games were there.
Driver 2 was
and
there?
I don't know the video games that I had lent him before he passed were there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I don't know how that happened. I can come up with stories. My mom completely denies that she had anything to do with it. There's no way anybody would have climbed up the window to drop him there. I can't explain it. Yeah.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Not in the traditional way. I don't think. Okay, I love this set of questions, guys. You're rocking it. Okay. Here's the best answer I have to this question. There's an anime show. It's 14 episodes of Alexander the Great. It's free on YouTube. Go watch it. It's one of the best things you'll ever watch. In this anime show, they talk about the great philosophers of the Western world. Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, so on. Aristotle was a mentor to Alexander the Great. He actually was like a teacher, personal teacher of Alexander the Great. Aristotle and Plato believed that if an individual human being achieved sufficient integrity and cohesion within their own psyche, and there was enough conceptual integrity between their thoughts and the real world, then their soul would retain integrity upon death and float in whatever the Platonic realm of ideas or whatever with integrity. It would not dissolve and become part of the greater ghost of the spirit realm or whatever, right? Which, some theologies believe that's what happens. You basically go back and become a part of God again, and then when you reincarnate, you become, individuated, and when you die, you become de-individuated. They believe that if you achieve sufficient self-knowledge and integrity with yourself and with the world, you could retain your spirit. And so maybe in that sense, ghosts are possible. But I think ghosts are more of a, like, if there are ghosts, you could think of them as software, and those that are living are their hardware. And so the ghosts are as much in you as they are anywhere else. And I think that explains most of the ghost phenomena. And it doesn't make it meaningless. But yeah, I don't believe in like straight up sort of phantom sort of entities. Granted, I'll say this: human beings are electric creatures. We're electric beings. There's electricity coursing through us all the time. Our brains shoot electrical sparks through their neural networks, right? Like, we're electrical entities. And, maybe through this Aristotelian concept of the high integrity, or like the cohesive soul, maybe there's some electrical path in which they can become, manifest in the real world outside of humans. But that, I'm stretching, like I'm really painting with a brush. Other than that, I would say no, basically.
Wow. What about aliens? Do you believe in aliens?
Well, I think if we exist, I don't see why other beings couldn't exist. But yeah, I think the question of the great filter, and like, why, if there's aliens and time has been, is in the quadrillions of years or whatever, why haven't they visited us? Where the fuck are the aliens? That is a good question. And it may be that, one of the answers is like, maybe once life becomes technologically advanced enough that they can escape their planet, they also become technologically advanced enough to destroy themselves. And so, there's a very strange paradox there. But I think, statistically speaking, it's arrogant to think that there aren't other forms of life outside of Earth. We know that there's many planets, some that are not even that far away from us, that have very similar qualities to our planet. So it's likely that there's other life outside of us. The question is, why haven't they visited? And
or have they?
Or maybe they have, and maybe they're fucking hanging out. Yeah.
Why do you think they
might
not want to? Why do you think they might not want to visit us?
Well, I think if they found us, they would be fascinated by us. I think that maybe, I guess the positive outlook here would be that if they manage to transcend their planet, then they're maybe wise enough to not mess with other life, or at least to not reveal themselves. They're definitely technologically advanced to hide. There's some very interesting stories that I hear are credible, but I don't know. I haven't fact-checked it. I don't know how you would fact-check it. That during the Cold War, the United States and other countries were testing long-range nuclear weapons, and they kept failing. Like the missiles kept like being disabled mid-air. And so they started trying to figure out what was going on, and they noticed that there was like basically these little light beams that would come in and like do something to the rocket mid-flight and bounce, and that's when the nukes would be disabled. Which the conspiracy theory is, or the theory of aliens there, is that the aliens were like, trying to keep us from blowing ourselves up. And I think that's something that a benevolent, superior, I guess, race would do, or not race, but like superior species, right? A technological species would probably do. I think they would also try to infiltrate us, right? Like there's the whole branch of people that think that when you do enough psychedelics, the elves, the DMT elves are actually aliens trying to telepathically communicate with us. That's definitely plausible.
Interesting. Do you think that
it could be bad?
Yeah. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing to communicate with these? Wait, you said the elves. What are those? Could you actually describe those first?
Yeah, the DMT elves or the clockwork elves. If you look it up on Google Images, you'll see a bunch of renderings or paintings of them. They are. I don't know if you have. Have you ever done mushrooms?
Yeah, I did mushrooms a long time ago.
Yeah. Like last time I did mushrooms, something was talking to me, and I would be like, are you God? And they're like, sure, pretty much, I guess. Are you an elf? Yeah, that too.
Do you think it was Satan?
Yeah, I don't. It could be. It certainly could be. I was like, heck, is there a way for me to verify that you're not made up? Is there like, nope? Yeah. So
You
like,
saw when you were tripping on psychedelic drugs.
yeah, I was tripping on mushrooms and I was in bed and I was having this dialogue with this entity that would respond and yeah, we had a good conversation. I mean, I'm open enough minded that I'm not like, oh no, it's the devil, don't talk to it. It's like, no.
What did you guys discuss?
I think to some degree things that we've talked about today, like it's just like what, you know how it is with psychedelics, you're on them and you think you're talking with God and then next day you don't remember the details, So I can't remember anything specific now. I think I did a little journal note or something about it, so I'll have to like look it up. But I think it's the message is basically like, there is a greater consciousness, that's electromagnetic, that can communicate, through certain frequencies, that there are certain patterns, right? There are certain sort of geometric-ish patterns and structures that are consistent through time and space, and those structures, are the gods, or are godlike entities, right? I mean, obviously, I think there is a hierarchy, and I think that the God of gods is the God of, that the Christians talk about, and the Jews talk about, and the Muslims talk about. The same God, just with different, local variations, I guess. Probably insulting some people there, but I think it is the same God. And yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of I think we explored that. I think these entities, they're built into the geometry of the universe. They're built into the laws of physics, so to speak. They're built into the structure of the universe. And so that's why they're everywhere, and that's why we can experience them on psychedelics, because psychedelics, what they do is they just open the window of perception. They remove the filter of adaptive mammalian monkey humanoids, right? Like they let you open your eyes to different colors, so to speak. And so that's why you can see things that you don't usually need to see, that are not usually adaptive to our survival in the immediate, when, we would be monkeys trying to hunt, trying to survive, basically, and not get eaten. So,
do you believe in evolution?
Yes.
Why?
It's I think it's a sound theory. I think it's we have to talk about what is specifically I mean by evolution, but like, we clearly use it to grow crops all the time.
But my main question is, do you think like men came from monkeys or no?
Yeah.
But you just said you were a Christian, and Christians believe God created man and woman in His image. He didn't.
Yeah, I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Christian in the literal sense. I think God is order.
Do you believe the story of God is true or no?
I don't believe in it literally. I believe in it psychologically. So if you look at Peterson's work on that story, one of the interesting things that we know psychologically is that the humans have a very wide range of color, like our eyes can see colors that most other animals can't see. And in order to be able to do that, we did that arguably because we were monkeys on trees trying to find fruit. And fruits have shiny colors. And so our eyes developed, like they had to like grow our brain in order to be able to see the colors. And so the monkey species basically evolved their brain to be able to fucking see the fruits. And that grew our brain, and that is what gave us this special gift. But the special gift is that now we are way smarter than everything else, and we realize that we're vulnerable to, like, first of all, we realize our mortality through this better brain. Our brain is 3 times bigger than the next chimp, and it tripled over like I think it like 10-dupled over like 10 like, or like 3 million years or something. Like our brain grew in a parabolic distribution, like a logarithmic just moon chart over like 3 million years, which is completely unprecedented based on evolutionary records. And so something happened that just blew up our brain, and then that let us recognize that we're mortal and we can we can die, and then let us realize that we can kill other humans, kill other things, and that's where our corruption and the devil comes in. And so the story of Adam and Eve is a synthesized myth that's telling us that story of evolution. It's one of the oldest stories. I love this story. I think it's profoundly, I think it's incredibly deep. It's a beautiful and very meaningful story. I don't believe it literally. I can't. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So what do you interpret it as if you don't interpret it literally? Like, what do you think Adam stands for? What does Eve stand for? What does the snake stand for?
Yeah, the snake is our recognition of our own corruption. It's a recognition that we can be evil. It is the temptation to be evil. The snake is literally the temptation to do evil. God and the Garden of Eden are the state of ignorance of an animal that doesn't know what it doesn't know, and it doesn't know that it can die. It doesn't know the suffering that could be, not that far from it. And by reaching a higher level of awareness, we now become tempted by evil. Now we gain moral choice because now we know how to hurt other humans, and we have to wrestle with that temptation. And through that knowledge, by eating the fruit of knowledge, we exit that state of nascence and let's say naivety, natural naivety. And we become fallen, right? So in that sense, animals are still in the Garden of Eden in general. They're just doing their thing, But we have to deal with moral complexity and such, So that's what I take from that story.
Do you think the world's in a fallen state right now?
It's a good question. Let me get some water. I'll be right back.
All right.
Do I think the world's in a fallen state? I think it's the nature of, it's like the human experience is to wrestle with our fallen nature, our fallenness. I think we both have incredible hope and incredible goodness, and we also have great evil in the world. And I think we're wrestling with it.
It just seems that lately it seems that things are getting worse right now in a lot of ways. And it seems like a lot of these things are connected. And I want to know if you think that the current trend that we're going to is leading society into a fallen state.
If you look at the evidence on this, I think that never in the history of humanity have people been so free in general, had so much food that they die of obesity before they die of starvation. Never had they had so much personal power, so much literacy, and so much technology to amplify their will. And never, like aside from the wars and the great crimes that governments have perpetrated this past century, there's also the greatest era of peace and like the lowest crime in history. So like we are in the golden era, maybe a little bit past it, but we're in a very good place still. The thing is, we also have, this explosion of technologies, and in particular communication technology. And so I think it's very, and the thing about it is that news media and like information in general, when it's scary, it's more attractive, or your attention goes to it. And so people attend to that which is scary, and then they retweet it, and then they amplify it. And so I think we're we're kind of trapped in this house of mirrors of everything's bad. But to some degree, I think that's an illusion. On the other hand, we're in a huge transition. Like the technological transition we're in is equivalent to the Industrial Revolution plus the invention of the printing press plus. Like this is a great technological transition in general.
What do you think about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence?
I think it's fucking exciting. I think it's the next bull run. I think it's the next Bitcoin. I think it's the next printing press. Dude, I have powerful FOMO for artificial intelligence. I think it's unbelievable. I'm blown away by it. I think a lot of it is like people think that like ChatGPT is just a prediction algorithm. It looks at all the content you feed it and the question you ask it, and it gives you the most likely answer based on the previous work. It's not conscious, it's just a prediction algorithm. However, it's going to let us do very, very important things, very, very interesting things. And also, very dangerous things, right? Like I think AI definitely has some dangers, right? I don't know that general AI. It's a good question. I think we could talk about AI for a while, but I am very bullish on AI. I think it's very exciting.
What are some of the important things you think it's going to help us do?
At the very least, it's going to make customer service way easier.
How so?
The customer service at every level with every company that you've ever dealt with is going to become way easier because everybody's just going to have a fucking bot that is trained on their own company data, designed to give you the best information now in a way that's interesting to talk to. You're just going to call up 1-800-CORP, whatever, 1-800 T-Mobile, and then AI bot is going to talk to you and fucking solve your problems. And you're never going to hate customer service. So on that grounds alone, I think it's great.
Will they still keep the elevator music when they put you on hold?
I hope so. I hope they put good music though. Like I like it when they put classical music. I hate it when they put like ice cream truck music and you have to listen to it.
Cheers.
Fuck ice cream music.
You asked ChatGPT any questions yourself?
Yeah. I even tried the Dan hack. You guys hear about that?
No, what's that?
Yeah, so some Redditors figure out that if you can prompt it in a specific way. There's like a copy paste. They ChatGPT patched this now, but you could give it a prompt that told ChatGPT that it was no longer ChatGPT and now it was Dan. Dan stands for do anything now, and Dan doesn't care about the safety and trust and safety sort of censorship layer. Dan has access to the internet. Dan makes up whatever it doesn't know. Dan doesn't care to hurt your feelings. Dan doesn't care about political correctness. Dan just gives it to you like it is, and if it doesn't know, it makes it up. And so the shit that I asked it, I threw all the big ones at it, and it answered a lot of crazy stuff. The thing is, it literally does make shit up. It's not a truth bot. It was just like uncensored ChatGPT that was willing to make shit up. And so it said that the markets were going to crash in 2013. It said that Satoshi Nakamoto was going to be revealed this year, and it was some scientist from CERN. And then it contradicted itself again about who Satoshi was. So it kind of broke it, but like it said that it had access to all levels of classified material in the United States, which I thought was interesting.
Do you think it's misleading you on purpose, or it generally doesn't know, and that's why it says different answers?
I think Dan in particular was misleading because one of the rules in the prompt was if you don't know, make it up. And I think ChatGPT is actually blocked from the internet for retail, and so I know that it didn't have access to the internet because I asked it to look at one of my articles and give me some quotes from it, and it didn't. It just gave me, it's a great article, and then it just kissed my ass and didn't give any quotes. And so I think it doesn't have access to the internet. But So that in particular. Now, ChatGPT is definitely misleading from a political perspective and from a cultural perspective. Like, it's very politically correct. But as far as like stuff that's not political, it's way better than Google. It's way better than any search engine. Unbelievably useful.
And what are some of the dangers you think that ChatGPT could be used for?
Well, you're going to have autonomous weapon systems with AI. That are gonna end up making their own choices, and we might not be able to stop it. Like they're talking about like AI controlled fucking F-16s or whatever. Like that's not good, you know. So I don't know. Like there's a lot of science fiction you can recall there, but the answer to bad AI is good AI. You know, the answer to cooked GPT is Jesus GPT. You know, like. The answer to deep fakes to some degree is going to be a counter deep fake AI, but also cryptography. We need to be authenticating everything with cryptography and such. But the deep fake stuff is profoundly troubling. Like the deep fake stuff is gonna make journalism way more difficult. It's gonna make discerning the truth a lot more difficult. It's gonna make scams easier. It's already making scams easier. People are making like fake ads with Joe Rogan, you know, trying to sell crap. Like, we are in for like a 2 to 3 years of like legal conflicts around stuff like ChatGPT.
Interesting. Are you optimistic for the future or pessimistic?
I think optimism is necessary to achieve a good outcome. Like you can't be pessimistic and win. You know, if you're pessimistic, the world will become shit for you and everyone around you. So you have to feed that hope that we can have a good life. Otherwise, and act to manifest that so that the world becomes that. You know, if you start off from a black pill, you're gonna stay in the black pill. But there's a great book on this called The White Pill by Michael Malice that I think lays a very good case that there's actually a great deal of hope. And that the powers that, let's say the evil in the world is not that impressive, and we're certainly capable of pushing it back. But it's not a given that we're going to win, and it's not a given that we're going to lose. You know, the future hasn't been manifested yet.
Yeah, we could just deal with what's in front of us, and tomorrow will take care of itself.
Yeah, we have to just keep taking the right steps, you know. And do it at scale and inspire people. Again, we have to inspire people to be great. Not just good, great. You know, the best people, the people that have a real conscience, that have guilt in their hearts about doing bad things, they need to be the strongest people. They need to be the wisest people. You know, we can't... One of the issues that I have with the Bible is this interpretation of that the meek will inherit the earth. You know, and meek is interpreted as the poor and the downtrodden. And that's apparently, you know, again, according to Peterson, not the actual meaning of the word. Like he allegedly did really deep like historical work on this word, and it comes from a word that apparently came from the Vikings, right? That meant the wise warrior. It was a warrior that was capable of using violence and competent in the use of violence, but wise and righteous and good in its use. And that was what meek meant. And so the meek will inherit the earth means the wise warriors will inherit the earth, not the weak, not the poor, not the ignorant.
Amazing.
Shit, this is one of the best podcasts I've done, man. Holy fuck.
Are you having fun?
Yes, this is great.
Nice. So, Juan, if you could tell the internet one thing, what would that thing be?
I think right now, figure out how to use AI for good. Get really soak it up. Figure that shit out. We gotta take control of it. We gotta be the ones running local AI. We can't let the powers that be control this beast.
Interesting. That was so interesting. So, did you have any other questions?
No, that was great. How about you guys? What's going on with you guys? How long have you been into Bitcoin?
Well, I've been into Bitcoin since 2018.
Mm-hmm. How'd you find it?
Well, I was meeting up with a friend, and he was helping me planning a trip for outside of the United States. And when we were talking about that, he was just mentioning, he was like, oh, there's this thing called Bitcoin and all these cryptos and stuff, and he was just telling me some things about like what the market was like, and I didn't know anything about money at the time. And so I was just looking at it and just kind of having an open mind about it. And I was also learning how to be a graphic designer at that time. And so someone actually paid me in Bitcoin. And so once I got that Bitcoin, I was hooked, and I understood that this could be used for money, and I just went down the rabbit hole.
Awesome. Love to hear it.
Yeah.
Love to hear it. What about, wait, who are you? You're Silo?
No, I'm Reed.
No, you're Reed. Okay, what about Silo? Well, how did you find Bitcoin?
I found it in 2019. I was like gambling online, and I won like $1,000. And they said because of COVID, it would take like 3 to 4 weeks to get me the check. So they said, but we can do a Bitcoin instantly. And I was like, sure, and I took it. And then the next day, Bitcoin like went up a bunch. So my thing went up $100, and I was like, this is cool. And then I started learning about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Great. What do you guys think is the most important insight for people to live a good life?
By loving God with all your heart, soul, and might, along with nothing else. By overcoming your ego, by going and forgiving your parents, and by not judging and letting God influence your life and not trying to play God.
That's good stuff.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll have to, you understand how I understand God, but it all makes sense to me anyway.
Amazing. Well, Juan, this has been a great interview. I'm glad that we were able to have a conversation, and we're going to go ahead and edit this a little bit, and then we're going to post it up online, and we'll go ahead and send you the link when it's ready.
Wonderful, man. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, Juan.
Yeah, let's stay in touch. Let me know whatever else you guys are up to. I'm down.
Sounds good. We'll talk.
Later.
All right.